You person, how would you decide? I don't know.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dumb Eternal Kent with Bent 168. I am, of course, Dapper Dinosaur. I am here with the Bent of Kent with Bent, the guy whose name is actually on the show, Kent Hovind. No relation. Bent, how you
How's
doing?
it going?
Oh,
I'm
what's going
doing
on?
well. How are you?
Doing okay. It's yeah, doing okay. I had to do some math today, and that was a disaster. Like, I just kept getting the wrong answer, and, like, my head was hurting after a while, and I was like, okay, hold on. Is it, like, 10.85 times 10 to the 20th? And everyone's like, no, it's not even close to that. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, okay, well, hold on. What about... And, like, So eventually I was like, all right, I'm just going to step by step put all of this math into Blender math nodes. And at the end, I'm going to convert it into a string that should read out the actual final value in scientific notation. And then suddenly I got the right answer. I'm like, all right, well, this is how I do math now. It's just in Blender. Because,
Awesome.
yeah, I'm just sitting here like, what am I doing wrong? And I've got, like, all these sheets of paper with math on them, and I'm like, I can't do it. So, yeah, from now on, apparently that's just how I do, like, basic arithmetic and algebra. So, yeah, hey, I have heard that it is Canada Day. So I want to say Happy Canada Day to any Canadians out there who might be watching right now or who might watch in the future. Bent, do you know the story of Canada Day?
I do not.
Well, in 1973, Edwin Canada invented the country of Canada, and this day is to commemorate that event. And he named the country after himself.
Nice.
Yeah, well, I guess after his family.
That's amazing.
And that is the true history of Canada Day. It's the true history of Canada Day in sort of the same way that the Book of Mormon is the true history of the Native Americans.
Of course.
Yeah. So, there you go. I also have a few people to thank. First of all, I have to thank Kent Hovind for gifting me Death Stranding, a game which I am currently playing. I am about a third of the way through it.
Very welcome.
Yeah, I am quite enjoying it. It is a very strange game, but I do like it. Also, the people I am connected to on that game need to step it up with bringing in ceramics for the roads. Because holy crap, are they lazy with that. Like, come on, guys. We could be traveling all over the place really fast with cool roads if you just help me with the ceramics, instead of like I'm the only guy who does it. And as a result, the ceramics in most of my settlements that I'm connected to are like really depleted because I like roads. I like to drive on a road. It doesn't deplete my battery. I can go fast. I don't encounter BTs. It's great. Anyway, I also want to thank Thierry Rana for getting me Star Trek Resurgence. So that is going on the queue. And then I also want to thank Phil Havara for getting me Total War Warhammer 3 and Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun. So right now, as it stands, my gaming queue is going to go Death Stranding, Mechanicus, then Star Trek Resurgence, then probably Bolt Gun, and Total War Warhammer 3 is in there last because, like, I know it's going to take me a long time to really get through what I want to get through in that game. Because I don't know if you played a lot of Total War games, but they can be very involved in campaigns. They're basically like a 4X game, but with real-time strategy battles, which is like, it's like two whole genres just shoved into each other. It's quite a lot. But I do quite like them. I played a lot of the previous two Total War Warhammer games. I know that for many people, the historical Total War games are where it's at, but I don't know. There's something fun about just saying, okay, so you've got spearmen and cavalry and such, right? That's cool. But have you considered dragon? And then you just fly a dragon at the army. I mean, that's fun. And in the historical games, there aren't any dragons, because it turns out dragons aren't real. Sorry, Kent. I know, it's disappointing. But we also have some Super Chats, but first I want to talk about the Super Chat goal. So today is one of those days where I am feeling like my audience might want me to take a break. Because they're the only ones who ever tell me to take a break, and sometimes listen to them. So if it were me on my own, what I would probably do after this show is we would watch Power Rangers, and then I would wait until you go to bed, and then I would record audio for the next video. And then while I'm doing that, I would be keeping my eye on the current Sheepa project I have, and staying up until like 1 a.m. so I can download it, and then turn that into a video, and then I would go to bed. And then I would wake up, probably with the sun at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I would start editing. And then I would be streaming tomorrow, because we're streaming tomorrow. So, if that seems like a bad idea to you, you can force me not to do it by completing the Super Chat goal. We have 3 out of 30. They have to be teal or higher, and they have to be done by 2 hours and 2 minutes from now. Or basically when we end the show. So, you know, there we go. And then there is one last thing. I have linked in both the description as well as pinned in the chat a link to Vishanti's current fundraiser. That is there because, well, Vishanti is still having trouble finding an actual, like, regular income. She has some irregular things that are coming in, but that is not always enough. And so she has been a huge part of this this channel, this community. And so what we are doing is we are also counting donations there for the purposes of donation goals today, including Ben Gets Free Pizza. And those donations are being counted at 1.2 times their actual value. So there you go. We already have had someone, or someone's give $70. So that is why we just saw that jump up. So I want to say thank you so much to that. We are doing a special for that tomorrow, but we'll talk more about that later. Next, we want to do some super chats. We're actually getting to them. And then we'll eventually get to Kent, I promise. Metageeky Platypus Librarian for $5 says, Dapper needs to relax, get his scales buffed. I hear pelagic tunics are good for that dermabrasion. They're really not. Also, something about Valise of Wieners is AIG. Well, we'll take a drink for that. The thing about pelagic tunicates is they don't have, like, jaws or teeth or anything that would help with dermabrasion. They filter microscopic plankton into their basket, and then they have an outflow siphon that they squirt water out of, and that's it. Digestion and gas exchange both happens in the basket, which is, partial digestion happens in the basket. That stuff is then later passed on to the actual stomach, which is down towards the bottom of the animal. But whatever. Then Goop3 for $5 says, is Dumb Eternal coming out the same day as Animal Kenting New Horizons? You should send me that in DMs so that I remember that name. Because we are coming up to the point where we're going to start running out of Doom names. Because we still got Doom the Dark Ages, and I might do Brutal Doom. But, like, I'm not doing, like, every single, like, WOD that everyone can think of, right? Like, I'm not doing, like, Doom My House or whatever, or any of the other various WODs, because, like, no. I have to draw the line somewhere. Sapphire Science Nimby's line for $5 says, I hope everyone had a wonderful Pride. Here's to day one of another year of Pride, with a general Pride flag and trans Pride flag. Bleh, I can't talk. And then some kaiju emoji, which we'll take a drink for. I'm assuming that you're on your phone, which basically makes it impossible to use the emojis. Then Fits of Galapagos Islands are the Holy Land Rage. Yep, that's based on the most recent Forest Valkyrie video. Gifts a membership, so we'll take a drink for that. I'm drinking a rum and cola, by the way. What are you drinking?
Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
Nice. My Unfinished Journey for $6.66 says, Hail Nero, Hail Daps and Bent, Hail Canada Day, and Hail Vacation Days. Thank you very much. I actually, if we meet the goal, I will actually take Friday, basically, just not do anything on Friday. Chesh is going to be streaming to my Top Hats Off channel, and I'll probably be in the audience, and maybe just like the last time she did it, I'll jump into the voice chat every once in a while to yell at her. But that's not work. That's just me kind of teasing Chesh, which is sort of our dynamic. Is just that I tease Chesh. That's what it is. All right. Let's see. Zerlon is drinking an off-brand 7 and 7. All right. So When we were last here, Kent Hovind was telling us how the Earth is smoother than a cue ball on a pool table, which is both true and entirely like irrelevant to any of his particular talking points where he differs from science. So I don't really know why he's talking about it, but it was also in the context of him thinking that the continental shelves were like the beach lines of the continents from right after the flood during his imaginary version of an ice age, which is just something he made up one day as far as I can tell. Like, I'm not aware of any other creationists who have said things like this. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's no particular reason why you would think that the edge of the continental shelves is where the water had to come to. So that, I guess, during the ice age post-flood, everyone who stepped like an inch off the shore just fell into water over their head, I guess. Like, it's... And his reason for thinking this, like the logic that he's giving, is that there are erosion features that exist both on, and then more significant ones on... Oh, sorry. There are erosional features on the continental shelves, which, yeah, there are. And that there are bigger ones on the continental rises, which, I don't know how he gets from either of these things to, therefore, the continental shelf was the beach. Like, I don't understand how that logic works. Because there are erosional processes that happen underwater. Like, even deep underwater. That's, like, a thing that happens. So, like, I don't know what the point is. But we have a couple more super chats. Or one more, sorry. Jake, insert clever dapper inside joke here. Nelson for $5 says, for F's sake, helping Vish is good enough reason to take a night off. A well-rested dapper is a useful dapper. There is some truth to that. I have not been getting adequate sleep, in part because the sun is up too damn early, and part of my body, some part of it, probably like, I don't know, the pineal gland or some crap like that, is like, oh, there's light, it's time to work. I was like, no, I don't wanna. I want to stay in bed for another, like, 3 hours. Just let me. Nope. I can't. It won't let me. All right, let me just double check the fundraiser. And we have not had any donations since the last time I checked. So, by the way, if we get Bent gets free pizza, there's a fair chance that will turn into tacos. Because I had a pizza yesterday? Yes, it was yesterday. I don't really want a pizza today or tomorrow. So, I kind of want a taco tomorrow. Or tacos, more likely. And if you have been watching this channel for any significant amount of time, you probably know what kind of tacos I want. And put it in the chat. If you know what kind of tacos I want, put it in the chat. Last but not least, we do in fact have a poll. The poll is Kong Skull Island a Godzilla movie? Right now we have 59 votes. Yes is 12%, no is 19%, and turtle is 69%. Nice. That is basically, we're going to be switching in probably about 2 to 2.5 months from Power Rangers to Godzilla for the after show watch party. And one of the questions I have is, do we watch Kong Skull Island? Because I plan to watch, like, the Godzilla anime and Monarch, both of which have Godzilla in them, but not in even close to every episode. But I'm still going to watch the episodes that don't have Godzilla, because otherwise the episodes that do won't make sense. So, does that work with the Legendary movies and the TV show? So, I don't know. And, yep, Zeralon gets it right. John Hopkins gets it right. Also, John Hopkins, I have to inform you that the plan for Friday is that we will be drawing your supporting character for Star Trek Adventures, Han Jopkins. So I need you to get with Chesh to tell her what Han Jopkins looks like. He's a Boolean, so he's probably got to be bald, he's got to have blue skin, and he's got to have that ridge going across his forehead, and, well, down his whole body, I guess. But other than that, like, you can tell her, like, what color his eyes are, like the shape of his nose, the shape of his jawline, what his cheekbones are doing, how big his ears are, all that stuff. As long as you keep it, like, reasonable. Like, don't say, like, he's got African elephant ears, because I'm just going to veto that. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $2 says, linguist likes lingua. Shocking. First of all, I am not a linguist, and second of all, I don't think that linguists particularly like lingua more than anyone else. Which is to say they should all love it, because it's delicious. Alright. I think we now actually have all the preliminary nonsense out of the way. So we're going to actually hit play.
If you shrank the Earth down to the size of a cue ball, it would be smoother and rounder than the cue ball.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Take a drink.
Even though Earth has these giant mountains, they're insignificant compared to the size of the Earth. At this distance, you can't even find Mount Everest or the Rocky Mountains. You couldn't find them.
I mean, you could because they're a different color than the surrounding terrain, but I suppose if it were just like a monochromatic globe that just had height values, then no, you couldn't. In fact, when I do planet renders in Blender, like for my Star Trek teasers and whatnot, I usually hugely exaggerate the height just so I get some cool little like shadows near the Terminator line in ways that are actually very unrealistic, but it looks good, so who cares? But yeah, I mean, I don't know why Kent is saying this, but he's not wrong, which is kind of surprising on its own. Because, my goodness, Kent can be wrong about anything. It's like a superpower.
This runoff, then, that would cause canyon features to be formed very quickly.
Except it wouldn't, though, right? So this is actually something I'm talking about in the video I just finished scripting earlier today. We know what flood runoff looks like. We have some great examples of even gigantic scale flood runoff. The two I always go to are the northern hemisphere of Mars, which has a lot of flood spillways that are still there, because I don't know if you know this, but geological activity on Mars is it's pretty slow, right? The atmosphere is very tenuous, which means that even though there are dust storms, they have very little energy, and so they don't tend to weather things very much. And there's basically no tectonic activity. There's no volcanic activity left. So, I mean, things on Mars go very slowly. Which means even though these floods on Mars probably happened billions of years ago, we can still see the channels that they flow through. But we also have the channel scablands in Washington, which were they were caused by a series of floods, but it was basically a glacial lake would fill up, and then as the glaciers retreated, eventually the ice dam that was holding the water back would get too weak and it would break, and then over the course of just a few days, the entire lake, which was basically bigger than the Great Lakes, would just flood down into the Pacific. And the problem is that in both of these cases, we don't get what we see in the Grand Canyon, right? So in the Grand Canyon, we get these steep-sided walls, like V-shaped canyon. In some places, the walls are almost vertical, like the red wall limestone. It's called the red wall limestone because, one, it's red as a result of like the desert dust that has blown onto it, and two, because it's a wall, because it's basically vertical. You don't get that after a flood generally. You get smooth U-shaped canyons, right? You get sort of a parabola cross-section, if that makes more sense to you. Also, floods don't do switchbacks, right? They don't go ziggy-zaggy all over the place. They go very smooth in a single direction, and they take only very gentle turns, if any. And third, when they hit obstacles, they don't go through the obstacles. They don't even tend to go over the obstacles unless they're very shallow. What they tend to do is go around the obstacle and then weather that into a teardrop shape. You can see that very clearly on the northern hemisphere of Mars. There are a whole bunch of craters, which behind them have a teardrop hill that comes behind them. That's because when the floodwater hit the crater, because the crater is mostly compacted rock, it was harder to erode than the surrounding rock. So the water split around it and came back together on the other side. But when that happens, it leaves a teardrop shape. And so that's what that is. So there we go. Let's see. ONV Alpine, Octopi, and Mountain Sharks at Club Himalaya for $5 says Ghidorah, and we'll take a drink for that. Here we go. If you enlarge Kent's brain to the size of a cue ball, it would still be just as smooth. AIG is a cache of Kent's. We'll take a second drink. That was really good, actually. I really like that. Osiris Phantom AIG. Okay, there we go. Oh, I get it. The name itself is a dick joke. Because what was the one part of Osiris that Isis couldn't find when she was putting him back together after he was murdered by Set? Bent?
I give up what?
Come on. I said it was an AIG joke. You know this.
I don't want to say it. I don't feel comfortable right now.
Oh, okay. It was the penis. Isis never found the penis. So, there you go.
That poor woman searching and searching.
Yeah. So, anyway. So Osiris Phantom AIG says for 200 Argentinian pesos, the real question is, can Kent's smooth brain run Doom? Almost certainly not. I would be shocked if his brain could run Doom. So, also in the chat, Vishanti is here, and Vishanti is asking, why is it even a question Kong is not a Godzilla movie with an angry face emoji? The reason it's a question is because it matters as to whether or not we watch Kong Skull Island during the Godzilla movie watching, because the plan is to watch Monarch, but not every episode of Monarch has Godzilla in it, which then means, okay, well, if that's the case, and we're still going to watch all of them, because we are, then do we watch all the MonsterVerse movies, even the one that doesn't have Godzilla in it? Because the rest of them do, obviously. He's clearly the most popular member of the MonsterVerse cast of characters. Although, I gotta say, I was really kind of sad that Scylla got destroyed so fast in the most recent movie, because I really liked the Scylla design, and I thought it was a lot of fun, and then it was just like, oh no, we're just gonna kill this character off. I'm like, but guys, I like that one. Nope, doesn't matter. My Unfinished Sock for $5 says, don't call Dapper a linguist, call him a linguist instead. Either way, like and share the stream. Thank you very much. And then we'll update that on the how much we're getting towards the goal tracker, if I can figure out how to use my darn keyboard. This is actually a different keyboard than I've had for most of the time I had the channel. That one, the W key started to wear out, and I'll give you 3 guesses as to why the W key might be the one that wears out first on my keyboard. It's a pretty easy thing to guess. And then we're just going to double check the fundraiser. And hey, look at that. Another 70 have come in. All right. Which means I think we're a little bit past halfway to getting bent free tacos that I'm going to pay for. You know.
Cool beans.
Yeah. I mean, when was the last time you had tacos?
It's been a while.
Yeah. Far too long.
Mm-hmm.
While the sediments are still soft. You go places out...
Yeah, that's actually worse, Kent. The softer the sediments are, the less likely they are to be able to hold a steep slope, and the less likely you are to have the flood actually turn and meander around, right? Like, I'm taking a drink. That's incredibly dumb. All right. The softer the sediment is, the smoother the channel that the floodwater is going to cause is going to be. The more likely you are to get things like ripple marks, to get dunes, to get redeposition. Goop23 for $2 says, now Dapper's keyboard can only get L's. Okay, that was actually surprisingly good. I like that. But yeah, so like, when Ken says this, it's true that it means that the actual carving of whatever channel results will be faster. So he's got that going for him. But the problem is that the actual ability of that water to make something that even approximates something like the Grand Canyon or other canyons with, like, you know, barred tributaries and switchbacks and stuff, that goes down with how soft and how fast the whatever erosion feature it is that forms. So in his effort to say, well, this could happen as a result of the flood because of how much water there would be and how fast it would be draining, he's reducing the ability of that same erosion to actually cause the actual canyons that we see. And instead, it's increasing its ability to form hypothetical canyons that would be convenient to Kent if they existed. But, you know, they don't. In fact, the reason I have only like 2 big examples of, you know, near biblical proportion floods is because they're basically the only 2 examples I've ever been able to find. It's not actually something that happens a lot on Earth or Mars. So, yeah.
West. I've flown out west many, many times, and I just never tire of looking out the window of the airplane at these huge areas of where it almost never rains.
I'm with Kent on this. Flying across Western North America is really cool if you are into geomorphology, or just looking at terrains and whatnot. Especially if you are interested in the actual terrain and not the biology that likes to cover the terrain. Don't get me wrong, plants are really cool. I love plants. We should have more plants. Plants are yay plants. However, if what you are actually interested in at the moment is the shape of the actual underlying rock, then the American West is really great once you get out into the deserty areas, because there's not so many plants that obscure what's going on with the actual landscape.
And yet it's obvious there's been enormous amounts of erosion here.
True. Take a drink.
I think all this stuff probably formed quickly. When I was in is it Lompoc or Lompoc? Lompoc, okay. I didn't stop and ask a local native, but you guys lived right by there. I was driving down this new highway they just put in. Been there a couple of years, I think. And apparently they didn't get the sod planted in time, because off to the side I saw some erosion. So I walked up and...
I mean, okay, look, sod can help you reduce erosion and delay erosion, but I'm also going to point out that there's some things that just planting, sod down isn't going to fix. So, like, I don't know if this is the result of that. I just want to point out there that's not like the one size fits all cure to soil erosion. Let's see. Oh, Landon Noel just popped in saying good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your time zone and latitude and potential changes you may have faced at the Scopes trial. Hello, Dapper and Bent. Hello, Landon.
Hi, Landon.
Landon has reminded me that coming up pretty soon this month is the centennial of the Scopes trial. So I am thinking about what to do for that, because I don't know what to do for that. So if anyone has ideas, please let me know. So there you go. Also, we are at 8 out of 30 super chats for the goal that gets me to resist my inclination to just continue to work through most of the night.
took some pictures. As I got closer, I realized, man, we have a miniature Badlands.
No, you don't. You have a cliff. Badlands are areas of land where basically columns of rock exist, capped with particularly hard bits of rock, and they're caused by a collection of different erosion. A big part of it's rain, some of it is runoff, some of it is wind, and the key feature of a badland is that the terrain relief is so dramatic across its extent that not only is it useless for building or agriculture, it's actually hard to even traverse because of how steep all these columns are and how there's basically very little land that is actually, like, you could walk on. Nothing like that is happening there. In fact, previously, in the last episode, he showed us what he thought was, like, little tiny badlands in a bunch of soil that he had. Or maybe it was sand, but that had eroded, and underneath various larger pebbles had formed columns that were somewhat similar to badlands. But ultimately, that's not the same thing. And also, badlands aren't just made of loose, unconsolidated soil, because they would erode away in the course of hours. Not what actually happens, where basically, on the scale of a human lifespan, there's essentially just no formation. Further, they don't tend to form in areas with lots of flooding, because the flooding would swiftly undercut the softer sediment and collapse the pillars, leaving you with a slope that's more or less smooth and not a badland. Ironically, there's a maximum rate of erosion for any given badlands formation that can occur before you just collapse those pillars and you just get a slope, and it's not a badland anymore. And the thing is, a lot of this doesn't take a lot of, effort to figure out, right? You can just look up things like erosional rates, wind, rate of wind erosion, rate of rain erosion, how much rain per unit time causes how much erosion. You can check these things. You can do experiments on these things. But creationists just don't. In fact, just today, I was doing some math to do okay, has this creationist even defeated his straw man version of erosion? Because he was like, oh, we don't have nearly enough time for, the Colorado River to carve out the Grand Canyon. We have enough time for the Colorado River as it stands now, according to his straw man of how geology is supposed to work, according to science, to erode the Grand Canyon 1,000 times with just the Colorado River, according to his version of the straw man. Why? And this is a guy with a degree in geomorphology, unlike Kent, who has no degrees in anything. Why? They don't care to check, because the whole point isn't being right. It's not truth. It's not actual evidence. They don't care about any of those things. All they care about is that their pre-selected conclusion be supported by what they're saying. Not even by what's real, just by what they're saying. We got a few super chats here. Roshan, a localized standard compare Keller for $4.99 says, dress up as a monkey man for the Centennial Dapper. Oh, I could do that. I could dress up as a monkey man, which would just be my human suit. That's a possibility. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $5 says, I guess I grew up in the miniature Hawaiian Islands in eastern North Carolina. I never thought of fire ant hills as volcanoes, but whatever you say. I mean, I kind of think of them as volcanoes. You ever see what happens when you disturb one of those things, and then like thousands of upon thousands of fire ants come pouring out, biting the crap out of you and stinging you? I mean, I've seen it. It's volcano-like to me. It's like a living lava flow right there. All right, let's double check the fundraiser. Okay, nope, no change since last time. All right, here we go.
Probably after 1 or 2 rainstorms. All you need for erosion is...
Yeah, though that's not really very much like a Badlands. I mean, I get that there's a high amount of relief there, but like those aren't really columns like you see in an actual Badlands. There's some similarities, don't get me wrong, right? But also, you notice that this is rain erosion. This is not actually runoff from a flood, which is what Kent is using to explain basically all erosional features like on Earth. So, I don't know how he thinks this is going to help him.
There's lots of water and soft sediment. The softer the ground, the faster it erodes. Common sense.
Yeah, but Kent, also the faster that formation will go away, right? Like, I'm pretty sure if you went back a few more days later, maybe after another couple rains, it wouldn't look like this anymore. So, if all of this sediment was unconsolidated after the flood, which is Kent's point, we wouldn't have Badlands anymore. Sure, we might have formed some Badlands-like formations in the immediate few years, maybe even centuries after the flood. But by now, all of that would be gone because we still haven't had time to lithify what rock is there. In many cases, it takes hundreds to thousands of years to lithify rock. And like, while that's happening, they have to squeeze out the water. Where is that water getting squeezed out? I don't see it around. Let's see, Pegajace anti-gravity rupture device for $5 says, now I'm picturing a bunch of North Carolinians sacrificing virgins to a fire anthill. I mean, you do not want to get tossed into a fire anthill. It is going to be a really, really bad time. So, like, if North Carolinians were going to get into the whole, like, virgin sacrifices thing, I could think of less effective means of doing that. Not that I'm pro-virgin sacrifice. I'm actually anti-sacrificing people, virgins or otherwise. Also, it just feels like, to me, like, oh, if you're in a society where, like, you're sacrificing virgins, I feel like everyone would be racing to just have sex as quickly as possible with just about anyone, just to avoid the sacrifice. But, I don't know.
Here's Bryce Canyon. Tremendous erosion marks with these. The reason these pillars are sticking up is because there's a hard rock on top.
Yeah, and Kent, how does that happen during a flood? Right? Because generally speaking, the hardness of a sedimentary rock can be kind of correlated to like how fast you can deposit this stuff, right? So, well, that's not really true. It's only kind of true. But generally speaking, what's on top of these are sandstone that's actually better cemented than the sandstone below it, which makes it harder. But you know what it isn't? It isn't sandstone that's graded by things like grain size, right? You're not actually getting like coarse grain sandstone going up to fine grain sandstone, increasing in fineness as you go up this column, which means it couldn't actually be explained by a single depositional event. Because when you have a single catastrophic depositional event, you get grading of the sediment, because different size of grains fall out of suspension at different rates. So you can see this if you just like take a glass of water and sprinkle in something that's like powder, right? Like first sprinkle in some sand. And you're going to see that the sand falls out of that water column that you've just sprinkled it into pretty fast. It takes a little bit of time as it kind of moves around as a result of Brownian motion, right? But then get a sieve and sprinkle in some flour, right? That's not going to dissolve into the water too fast. But one thing you'll notice is that it's going to take forever to actually settle at the bottom of the glass. It will eventually, but it's going to take a very, very, very long time. And that's because the smaller you are and the lighter you are as a particle, the more Brownian motion or any other currents are going to be able to keep you fighting against gravity and keep you suspended in the water, right? It's only in relatively still water that very fine grains can come out of suspension relatively quickly. Which means if there's a big flood, the first things that are going going to come out of suspension are going to be the bigger, heavier chunks of sediment, which means you're going to start with like really coarse grained sandstone, probably with some actual like drop stones in it, like actual big chunks of rock from elsewhere. And then as you go up both in time, you're also going to go down in grain size. But that's not what's happening at Bryce Canyon. So we can't have this form in a flood. And also, you need to explain why the cementing is different at different stages of this flood. Why is that? There's no particular reason to think that different amounts of, or different strength of cementing agents is going to change from one part of the flood to the other. And what a cementing agent is when you have a sedimentary rock, right? It's a bunch of little sedimentary particles. But what keeps them together as a rock is some chemical matrix which suffuses that and holds the grains in place. Otherwise, you would just still have unconsolidated, unlithified sediment. So why did the cementing change through the flood? It's not even an attempt to answer that question. So basically, all that Kent has right now is like, we'll see there's erosion, which, yeah, no one has ever disputed this. Like, Bent, do you see erosion there?
I think so.
Okay. Would you ever tell someone, like, no, there's definitely no erosion on Earth?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Right. So, like, pointing out that erosion happens and that it's visible on Earth, like, okay, great. That doesn't help anything. All right. And we are actually now getting close to the halfway point for the Super Chat goal, so thank you very much for that. And we've got, let's see, Roshan, our localized standard compare Keller for $4.99, who says, first of all, I wasn't playing God. I was doing an original character. Nice. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $5 says, calcular ants, actually red velvet wasps, hurt much more than fire ants. That's true, but they don't form big old mounds full of thousands of them. Which, like, thank goodness those guys are solitary. Can you imagine if there was, like, a colony of millions of calculars? That would suck so much. Yeah. But yeah, they are not ants, although ants are wasps. I'm just going to put that out there. Ants are, in fact, wasps, as are bees. So, all right. I'm going to take a drink for how stupid Kent was with, like, erosion, therefore blood, as if that's how that works. Especially given that he thinks that all erosion happened in unconsolidated rock, and that all that rock was laid down by a flood, both of which are also impossible. So he's trying to explain two different phenomena with a mechanism that can't be used to, explain them, and then saying that because those two things exist somewhere in the world, therefore the first thing that couldn't explain them is actually true. Nope.
If you have a hard cap on top, the water hits it and erodes everything beside it, but it can't erode right under that hard cap, unless, of course, it gets enough that it falls over.
Or, a flood runs by it, Kent, which is your entire point. Because you're talking about rain erosion, primarily, right? Where the erosion is coming from top down, which is why a cap can help. But if the water is coming from the side, how is a hard cap going to work? It's like a helmet, right? A helmet might help you with, like, say, small falling rocks. Okay. Is it going to help you in a flood? Is it going to protect you from bullets flying from the side? No, of course not. It can only protect you directionally. I'm going to take another drink. Yep.
Did you guys stop in Colorado Springs and see Garden of the Gods on your way back? Have you seen that, Colorado? My aunt lives there.
I've seen Garden of the Gods. That's not Garden of the Gods, but it is really cool, although it was raining when I went there, which was kind of disappointing. So, try to get out there when it's not raining. Although one of the people I went to see it with, went back recently. And when she was there most recently, it was raining again, and even harder than the first time we were there. So, maybe it just rains there a lot. I don't actually know. Roshan, a localized standard compare color for $4.99 says, what's the wasp you'd most like to have walk along your back en masse? That's not an easy question. It would probably be an ant, and probably an ant that does not have a stinger. And that isn't terribly big, so that the jaws can't do much. So I guess some kind of small species of stingerless ant would be the answer to that question. Yeah. Although I would rather just not have wasps crawling along my back and, like, en masse. That sounds terrible. Yeah, as Josh McGee says, none of them? Yeah, but I guess if you have to choose a small ant that doesn't have a stinger. And there you go. What about you, Bent?
I think I agree with you. That
Yeah?
makes the most sense to me.
You're not going to go for, like, mud dauber or something?
No,
Okay.
no, I was thinking ants, and I was thinking like, I wonder if big or small would matter. But then the way you phrase it made it make more sense for a smaller ant without a stinger.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, how do you feel about mud daubers, though?
I don't know much about them.
They daub mud, and they're very docile.
Okay, I'm pretty neutral about that.
Okay. I mean, I like mud daubers. I like watching them when they're collecting mud because they like to flit around little puddles because that's where there's mud. And they use the little mud that they collect to make their little hexagonal cells in their nests and whatnot. And so I also think they're kind of pretty. They have like this really thin connection between the thorax and the abdomen, and they're sort of dainty. They have somewhat long legs and whatnot. And I don't know. I think they're kind of pretty and fun to watch. So I'm a fan of mud dauber wasps overall. Also, speaking of walking, did you know dragonflies can't walk?
Really?
Yeah, they can. They have feet, right? But all they can do is grab with them. So they can grab something to perch on, or they can grab a prey item. They can't actually walk on their legs. The only way they move is by flying. As adults, obviously. As larvae, they swim
Yeah.
because they form they when they lay eggs, they hatch into naiads. So yeah, but yeah, they can't walk.
There in Colorado Springs. We used to go there a couple times a year as a kid, all my life, Been all over those Garden of the Gods, climbing on those rock formations, which very obviously were, I think, from the flood in the days of Noah.
But here's the thing. When Ken says "I think," whatever comes afterwards is completely meaningless, right? Because Kent has a long history of being wrong about virtually everything, which means that he isn't an authority at any point. Now, technically, the fact that some person thinks something isn't actually ever a logically valid reason, but there's this thing called a heuristic, right? Remember Data had all those heuristic algorithms, Bent?
That is correct.
Yeah. Well, what a heuristic actually is, it's sort of a shortcut, right? And it says, okay, I don't have a reasonable ability to actually form my belief about some topic in a rigorous way, right? Because most of us don't have that ability for most things, right? Most of the things in your life, you're going to accept for some reason that is not technically rigorously logical, because you don't have time for that, right? And so one easy heuristic is, if someone has been shown to be right frequently, then when they say something, you can probably accept it. And conversely, if someone has been shown to be incorrect frequently, you can probably dismiss what they say if that's the only evidence you have for it. Is this strictly logical? No. Technically, that's an argument from authority fallacy. Or an ad hominem. I said ad hominid, didn't I? Ad hominem. Anyway. But, again, because we don't have the time or the energy to investigate everything in a logically rigorous or empirical way, you go with heuristics. And I think a pretty good heuristic is that whatever Kent says is either going to be true or trivial. Which means there's never a good reason to listen to anything that Kent says, as if that's going to inform you about what the world is like. So, it doesn't really matter what Kent says. The only reason we care here is because it's a fun time telling you why he's wrong about things. So when Kent says, well, I think it was caused by the flood, doesn't matter, man. That's either no evidence or evidence against the flood that you said it.
The Mississippi River basin is gigantic.
True. Take a drink, I suppose. Oh, man. We don't have the Winkert Basin in there. I mean, we do, it's just not highlighted. So these are basically the big drainage areas in North America. And there is a basin that is north of the Colorado River basin that actually does not drain out to the sea, and that's where the Salt Lake is. It's also why the air quality in Salt Lake City is not great, because there isn't a lot of ways for any kind of air pollution to escape. And so there's just kind of a lot of pollution-y haze, especially since, that area in Utah has no lack of things like factories and whatnot.
This whole purple area drains into the Mississippi River and comes out in New Orleans. And by the way, the Mississippi is trying desperately to change its course again, and they are spending a fortune to make it not change its course.
That is correct. A lot of that is the Army Corps of Engineers working to keep the Mississippi River flowing through where it does now, so that New Orleans can remain a city, basically, because it would basically dry up entirely if there was no river there. And yeah, it's actually been a huge problem that the river really doesn't want to flow through there. And this is a result of it meandering. But one thing is, meandering is the very reason that you get things like switchbacks. And the Mississippi River is famously an extremely slow-flowing river. And that's the reason it can meander so much, because fast-running rivers tend to carve channels that they have a hard time getting out of, because the channels are relatively steep. But the meanders require a slow river, and the Grand Canyon has meanders. So it can't have formed rapidly. Because if it did, it wouldn't have meanders and switchbacks. But it does.
They have giant projects to prevent this from happening. But Chicago is only 600 feet above sea level.
Okay.
2 football fields.
Jeez. Americans measuring everything in football fields. Hey, did you guys know? Okay, this is for the Americans out there. There are units that aren't football fields out there that you could just use, and then you don't have to convert them to football fields if you don't want to. You could just not do that, right? You could just leave it at 600 feet. You don't have to convert that into football fields. I don't know. Just a pro tip. Or you could convert it to something useful, like meters. How cool would that be if you just converted the feet to meters? Jillian Underwaterland Bridge Wren says, have you considered that you're wrong about that? I have. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, from here to the stop sign, that's the elevation of Chicago.
I guess he has a stop sign 600 feet away. I don't know. You're recording this for like use by people who don't live on your former Dinosaur Adventureland property. Maybe you shouldn't reference things that exist in that neighborhood as if all of us know where those things are. Because I don't frickin' know where the stop sign is. That doesn't tell me anything. Maybe that works for Eric, but it certainly doesn't work for me or anyone else.
Above Pensacola. Not much. Now, this 600-foot drop the Mississippi River goes through, it takes the Mississippi about 920 miles to drop from the equivalent latitude of Chicago down to New Orleans.
I am not checking his math. If you guys want to, please do. I just don't care. Frankly, I've already done too much math today, and it made my brain hurt. That's actually not true, because your brain can't technically hurt, but it definitely was a painful experience. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $2 says, how many bananas are in a football field? I don't know. I think the exchange rate is the same as from leprechauns to unicorns. All right, we've got Goop23 for $5 who says, hey, that's not true. We also measure things in African elephant weights and Hiroshima bombs of force. Okay, you've got a point there. Americans do like to do those things, yeah. Which is weird, because, like, I don't have a good intuitive sense of how much force the Hiroshima bomb, like, released. What does that mean to me? Like, I know it destroyed a city, but, like, what? I don't know how to conceptualize that in a way that's useful that the actual real units wouldn't be. Also, YouTube is getting really, really annoying about this whole running out of resources bit. It's really getting old. But hey, we have 108 votes right now on the Is Kong Skull Island a Godzilla movie. Unfortunately, though, I can't stop the poll until it reads, yes, we should watch Kong Skull Island during the Godzilla marathon. So, like, you know, I can't end it yet. I want to end it because that's way more votes than we normally get. But, like, it doesn't have the answer that I want, which is how I know when to end a poll, obviously. It's actually not true. I usually just end them after a good portion of the people watching have voted, which right now we actually have more than 100%. So, like, thank you. But Yeah, let's check the fundraiser real quick. I just realized we haven't done that in a little while. All right, no change so far. All right, here we go.
So it's going to drop 600 feet in 920 miles.
Okay.
Not much. It's dropping 8 inches every mile. Because the Mississippi is flowing on such almost level ground, drops this far in a mile.
Okay. Kent, please stop telling us the rise and the run. Jeez, I'm going to go crazy if he says it one more time. Just tell us your point. If you say it drops 8 inches over the course of a mile one more time, I might throw something. Jesus Christ. How many times has he said it?
I think 3.
Gravity pulling it down. The Mississippi River loops back and forth because of this low gradient, it's called
Sure as hell does.
meandering. If you built a dam across Grand Canyon, of course, a giant lake would form. If you could build a dam across the Mississippi, you'd have to cover, probably all the state of Louisiana, be an awfully big dam. But if you built a 600-foot high dam across New Orleans,
It would be like across the entire southwest of the United States, but sure, whatever. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator says, we also use the millicent as a unit of stupid. That's true, we do. We do that. Yeah, you have a good point. Alright, let's update. Oh, I missed some updates because of the whole YouTube causing me to run out of memory for just no reason. I really need Kent to get to a point.
Chicago would be on the beach from a giant lake that would form.
Yeah, Kent, if you dam up any area of drainage and wait long enough, it'll fill up. This isn't news. I'm taking a drink. I can't take this. What is the point you're trying to make, Kent? Why are you saying obvious things that don't matter? Next thing you know, he's going to talk to us about, the sky is blue, and and roses are red, and the grass is green, and therefore God.
That whole purple area would be underwater. Grand Canyon, as we mentioned, is obviously a breached dam.
No, it's not obviously a breach dam. You just said that. It's actually obviously not a breach dam. Look at how steep those walls are in your own damn picture, Kent. Sorry, I'm trying not to release all the F-bombs. It's hard right now. I might just be low on patience today. That might just be what's going on. But,
He is making it difficult, though.
look at that. Those are sheer cliffs. Floods don't do that. They certainly don't do that through unconsolidated soft sediment, Kent. You don't have to be a genius to figure this out. Do you have a yard? Bent, you got a yard?
I do.
Do you have access to water and a bucket?
I do.
Okay, here's an experiment you could do. Build up a little earthen mound, right? And then pour some water on it real quick and see what kinds of channels it makes. I'll tell you what it won't do is it won't make sheer cliff faces. I encourage everyone who has a yard or just access to public land that they will let you dig up to go do that. And do check to see if you're actually allowed to dig up the public land, because a lot of places you're not. So, don't break any laws. Here at the Dapper Dinosaur channel, we do not encourage the cool crime of geology experiments on public lands, if that's illegal. I also realized we didn't actually go over the drinking rules, so sorry about that, but most of y'all know them anyway.
Textbooks always say it took millions of years to make Grand Canyon. That simply is not true, okay?
Well, then give us a reason, Kent, one that actually makes sense. One that isn't easily disprovable in your backyard, or that isn't easily disprovable by the own videos that used to be on your now defunct channel since YouTube took you down for spreading too many conspiracy theories. He had a dam breach video on his channel where there was an earthen dam around a small pond on his property in the new, Alabama location. And he cut a notch through that so that the water would flow out of the reservoir. And you know what happened? A straight, smooth-channeled gorge was dug out of that soft earth. And yeah, it happened quickly, but it didn't result in anything like what we're seeing here.
The top of the canyon is about 4,000 feet higher than where the river enters the canyon.
DM Evolutionary Newswing says, what about stealing an Acrocanthosaurus from public land? Yeah, no, that's definitely not okay. Oh, you know what? Roshan Localized Senator Keller says is, Depper is a professional for not going over drinking rules. I'll take it, yeah. Depper's a professional on that one. We'll take a drink. In part because I'm thirsty. That's going to get clipped.
Rivers do not flow uphill. No way that river made that canyon.
Those two things don't follow, Kent, because you know what else doesn't flow uphill? Floods. Floods also flow downhill. So if the water doesn't flow uphill is a problem, then it's a problem for both. But you know what does happen? Is water can cut through sediment that is uplifting. Landon Knoll for $49.99. My goodness, thank you very much, Landon. Says, given the average length of one of those yellow bananas sold in the U.S., hint, there are much better tasting bananas in the world. True. 480 bananas. Laid end to end would span American football goal lines. P.S. Happy Canada Day, eh? With a little party hat emoji and a winky emoji. Thank you very much. Kent the Bacteria Kind of Health says, am I crazy or did you not read my super chat? I probably didn't, actually. Kent the Bacteria Kind of Health said for $4.99 says, football field is a measure of area. It would be normally, but if you say the length of a football field, then you're just restricting it to the one axis. So, yeah, it's sloppy to just say football fields, but if you say the length of a football field, I think then it becomes, pretty reasonable. All right, so we are going to be taking a break pretty soon here to refill drinks. You do any kind of biological stuff. I am double checking the fundraiser, and I did not see any movement since last time. It matches what I have now. Okay, and I do want to remind people that we are going to be having another stream tomorrow, specifically to help with the fundraiser. So, the way that's going to work, we'll just talk about it real quick before we go on break, then we'll go on break. And I'll repeat this at the end. So the way the fundraiser is going to work, the fundraiser stream is Vishanti will be there. I will be sending out an invite to a few other people. I don't know who is going to show up or what. We're going to continue with the Christina Altman video. And one half of the net that I make from that video initially, because I'm not going to keep track of this for the next 3 years or something, but one half of that net income from that video is going to be then donated to the fundraiser. Also, we're going to be keeping track of the fundraiser on that day for purposes of tracking donations and whatnot. So we are encouraging you to give to that if your primary goal is to help out Vishanti. However, if your goal is just to super chat and have fun and chat, that will also be helping Vishanti because she is a big part of the channel. She is the co-host for close to half of the video or streams that I do. And I think without her, this channel would be a much less fun place. So, and also, good friend. So, who else is going to watch crazy horror movies with me? So, yeah, that is what we were doing for that. So please, if you do want to help out Vishanti, you can help her there. We're currently at 30% of the goal with 25 contributions, so thank you so much. There are 31 days left. Originally, the stream tomorrow we thought it would be like an emergency thing because Vishanti has rent that needs to get paid soon, like this week soon. And so we were like, oh, we need to do it fast and we got to get this set up. And I actually ended up calling her on the phone like it's the 90s to make sure that she was on top of when to schedule it, approving thumbnails and all that stuff. And so she told me, well, I need this much by this day to just not have eviction proceedings start. I'm like, okay, well, I think we can get you there. And then we got there today I think we got there before noon. So I want to say thank you so much to everyone who's been so generous. I mean, we've got numerous versions of Anonymous. We've got Jake Nelson, Seduk, Tab Gabriel, let's see, Regios, Lieutenant Matt the Navigator, Joshua Geese, Dan Sheedy, and more. So thank you so much, everyone who's done that. We're going to go on a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to give you the, if you want to help me out directly, talk, and then we're going to go back in for more Kent. And then we are going to wrap things up. And remember, if you want me to actually stop doing workaholic nonsense, the super chat goal is there. Otherwise, yeah, probably going to work through the rest of the night and also on the 4th. So, yeah, we'll be right back after these musical stylings from Kent Hovind. I was going to say messages, but it's just the musical stylings today. All right. We are back. Welcome back. All right, we have for $5. Joshua Gee says, I should be notified, but I want to verify the time for the stream tomorrow, as does Landon Knoll. It is going to be at starting at 6 p.m. Pacific time and 9 p.m. Eastern time. If you're not in either of those two North American time zones, I would suggest doing math. It is already scheduled, so if you go to my channel and you look for like upcoming videos, it should be there. I will double check the name of it. So, because it's actually got like two different names. Basically, there's a name in the thumbnail, and then there's a name that's actually attached to it. So the video, the title that you would search for is Karina Altman is dumb and Vishanti needs help. Parentheses, creationism, debunk, and fundraiser, and parentheses. The title that's on the thumbnail is Noah's Zookeeper and the Weakness of Flesh fundraising special. So that is there. The weakness of the flesh is, of course, because if not for the weakness of the flesh, Vishanti would need neither food nor housing, or clothing for that matter. She could just be a machine and just function long term without any of those things. So, yeah. Remember, ever since I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me, and I aspire to the purity of the machine, which is, in fact, the opening to one of the best game trailers that has ever existed for any game. So, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, after this, you should look up Mechanicus game trailer, Mechanus, Mechanicus. Oh wait, I think I missed some spelling. Whatever, you can spell it. I believe in you. All right, so real quick before we actually move on, I want to say first, thank you so much. I think you, all of you know by now that this channel is basically entirely supported, or at least primarily supported by the actual direct support of the viewers, whether it be through super chats, super stickers, super thanks, whether it be through gifting memberships, joining the Patreon, joining the memberships yourselves. That is the way that this channel keeps going, and it's a scary thing, right? Because I don't know how much I'm going to have at the end of next month, because whatever I make today, I will get at the end of next month, right? I don't know how much that's going to be. I have a minimum amount right now, which I can look at and then do some math on, right? But like, if that's how much it is, which it could be, I'm kind of screwed. So, but I don't feel like I'm screwed because you guys are very supportive. So, if you are currently someone who is enjoying the show and you are looking for a good way to contribute, especially in a way that helps me budget, there are two really good options. One is the Patreon. The Patreon starts at $1 a month. You can get a 50% discount if you go for an annual pledge instead of a monthly pledge. There is also the channel memberships. That starts at $1.99. There is a join button right below this. The Patreon is linked in the description. Bent also has a Patreon that you can go find if you want to help support Bent more directly. And that right there helps me budget because I can look forward to about how much I'm going to make next month, right, in Patreon or in the channel memberships tab. Those both give you access to my supporter-only Discord server. They both give you access to early access for videos. Like I said, I just finished the script for a video today, so that video should be out either later this week if we don't meet the super chat goal, or possibly if we do, but that would have to work really, really hard in the next few days to make sure that happens. Or at the very latest, early next week, right? So, and that video probably isn't going to come out for another 5 or 6 months, basically. So you have plenty of cool stuff to look at in early access. And there are other perks at higher tiers if you want that. Like, I believe starting at the $20 tier, I will thank you by name. I would like to thank everyone, but quite frankly, there are usually several hundred names, and I don't have that much time to thank everyone in a credit scene that people will actually watch. So, you know. But yeah, please check those out. If that's not your thing, there are a number of other ways to help out. I have an Amazon wish link linked to the description, as does Bent. Remember, the only time Bent ever eats are if you get him things that are food from his wish list, or we get him free pizza as a result of, you know, people being generous here. There is also a merch store if you want. That does not actually get me a whole lot of money, but it is also really, really fun to look at all of the merch that people have, whether it be mugs or shirts or blankets or whatever. So I want to say that is really cool. And if you can't afford it, please do not give any money. This should be something that comes out of your entertainment budget. This should not be something that comes out of your budget for your kids' orphanage bills, or, you know, the mortgage on your apartment or anything like that, right? Those are more important bills. So yeah, only if you can afford it is this something that you should give to. But if you can't, it would be really appreciated. And I think it's a pretty good deal for what you're getting if you're starting at like the cheapest option, right? Because the cheapest option is just over $10 a year, and you're getting that full year of access to the Discord server and the early access to the videos. I think that's a pretty good deal, for me at least it would be. All right, so we have a couple more super chats for 5.99 euros. Crow, not Confucius Ornus, says, take some damn time off, Dino Guy. Well, we're close. We're 2/3 of the way towards me taking some damn time off. So that's certainly a possibility. And then, why is this not loading? There it is. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $5 says, let the record reflect that we are 69% of the way to the goal. Nice. We're not anymore, but we were. And then Dustin Carroll for $4 sends a blank super chat. And thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And let's update this, because we didn't update it too recently. We're now 73% of the way, and 2/3 of the way towards me taking a little bit of a break. Not a huge break, just a little one. And I am not seeing a change on the fundraiser, so remember, if you do want to help out Vishanti, who is a huge part of this channel, There is linked in the pinned chat as well as in the description. There is a link to her fundraiser, which is currently going. And we do, in fact, we can end the poll now. So, is Kong Skull Island a Godzilla movie? Turtle at 62%, which I think means maybe at some point we should watch the Gamera movies. Because, Gamera's a turtle. Although some of the actual writers and producers in that series have said that Gamera is set in a world that doesn't have turtles, which is why no one knows what he is. So I guess in Gamera world, they just don't have turtles besides Gamera, which is kind of sad, because turtles are great. Anyway, yes is in second at 19%, and no is at 17%, which means we do have to watch Kong Skull Island during the Godzilla Watchathon. So, sorry, Bent, but we're going to have to watch Kong Skull Island.
I forgive you.
Hey, it's got Samuel Jackson. You like Sam Jackson? Yeah.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah, so, it's got Brie Larson. I don't know if you like Brie Larson.
Eh.
How do you feel about Tom Hiddleston?
Yeah, I guess.
John Goodman?
I love John Goodman.
Well, he's in it.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's pretty stacked cast, right? So, I think Brie Larson is the only female character in the entire movie. I mean, to be fair, it's basically a non-war movie. It's more or less Apocalypse Now with kaiju. So, Sapphire Science Nimby's Light for $5 says Kent Hovind is as dim as the blackout curtains Dapper should hang in his room. Kaiju, AIG, aubergines. Nice, we'll take a drink. Thank you very much. Yeah. Look, here's one of my concerns about that. My room is not terribly effectively cooled by the central air. And blackout curtains are black, and therefore they tend to get a little warm. And I don't know that I want something that is black hanging in the sunlight in my room. That seems iffy. Let's see. Kent the Bacteria Kind Hall set for $4.99 says, I can't confirm there is a feat on Patreon. Where's my wiki feed entry? That's what I really want to know. And then Jake, insert clever dapper inside joke here, Nelson, who's been a member for 27 months and is at the Tetchpot level, says, crowdfunded edutainment is meritocracy with a Murphy thumbs up. That is actually possibly one of the purest forms of meritocracy. Although it also turns out that what people want to pay for is not always great stuff, as we can see from nuisance streamers. But at least I'm not one of those. Yeah. Actually, a nuisance streamer here in Arizona, up in Phoenix, was just sentenced to a year in prison for spraying insecticide on basically a large section of their produce department at a Walmart. So, don't poison people's groceries. And his defense was like, well, I came back to clean up all the stuff I had sprayed. It's like, well, first of all, that stuff gets into the air. How do you know you got all the stuff that got any of the insecticide on it? Second, you also left it for like 10 minutes without looking to see if anyone was going to buy anything. So you don't know how many people went in and bought the food you poisoned. And also, like, hey, I know pretty much no one in my audience needs to hear this. Don't pay people to harm other people, especially random innocent people who are just going about their days trying to feed themselves and their families. Super not okay. A year is a slap on the wrist for that. Frankly, I think it should be longer, but I'm not in charge of that. Osiris Phantom AIG for 200 Argentinian pesos says, for some reason my brain decided Bent looked like Jesse Pinkman and Dapper's hat looked like Heisenberg's. And now that we know that Bent likes John Goodman, I wonder, what does he think of his brother Saul? But what do you think of Saul Goodman? Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously the brother of John Goodman.
Obviously.
Yeah.
The brother.
I mean, they have the same last name. What other explanation could there possibly be?
I can't imagine any other explanation being even possible.
Also, I gotta say, John Goodman is a really good actor, and it kind of sucks that he only started getting like real meaty, serious roles late in his acting career. Because I feel like we missed out on a lot of potential amazing performances from that man back when he was just typecast as like the comedy guy. And that kind of blows, because I have seen him in some really excellent serious roles, and by God, can that man act. Like, holy crap, he is excellent. And yeah, I just feel like we missed out. So, hey, Hollywood, try out more comedic actors in serious roles. because a lot of them are actually really good at it. Like Adam Sandler, I hate pretty much all of his comedy roles, but he's damn good in those serious roles.
It had to be formed quickly as a lake overflowed. Okay.
But it couldn't. Kent, remember how you talked about the meanders that had to form because of the slow moving of the Mississippi River? The thing you pointed out ad nauseum earlier. Hey, Bent. What is it? Is that a meander on screen?
I think so.
Wow. So according to Kent, meanders form on slow-moving rivers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did this happen in a flood then?
It must have been a slow-moving, fast-moving flood.
Yeah, exactly. It was a fast flood, the speed of a slow flood.
Exactly.
I've taken a drink for this nonsense.
A spillway. Grand Canyon is a washed out spillway, basically. And here's the
Look at all the crazy nonsense that river is doing. There are multiple times when it makes complete, like, 190 degree and then 180 degree turns. Like, what? Could it possibly look less like a flood spillway? Like, is there a way for an erosional feature to look less like a flood spillway than the Grand Canyon? In Kent's own graphic. I can't think of a way. I don't. Tell me in chat. Do you think that it would be possible for an erosional feature to look less like a flood spillway than this? For that river to look less like it was carved out by a flood? Landon Knoll says, "What is a washed out spillway?" Basically, it's a flood channel. That's what he means. I mean, spillway is a real thing, but by calling it a spillway, it's already kind of washed out. Like it's just redundant. He's not really wrong to say it, but it's kind of like saying, a big Earth mountain. Like, well, what else would a mountain be made of besides Earth? I don't know. Mars? I guess, maybe. Utopia Planitia represent, I guess. That's where the shipyards are. Or were, until the synth attack, which is one of the stupidest bits of Star Trek lore. I hate that we had The Measure of a Man. An episode all about how, hey, like, maybe we shouldn't go around treating artificial life forms as property because then we'll just create a slave caste. And that was decided in a legal case that, yeah, no, we shouldn't do that. And then the Federation was just like, but what if we did? Anyway! And oh no, that turned out poorly. Thanks, guys. Thanks for just erasing The Measure of a Man, basically, from existence. An episode which is amazing, because one, it doesn't need explosions, unlike most of the new Star Trek, which I like some of it, but there's way too many explosions. And two, it was a fan spec script. That was like fanfic that a fan sent in, and they were like, you know what? This isn't fanfic anymore. We're filming it. That's really cool. One of my favorite episodes, especially of early TNG. Wasn't that an episode, or a season 1 episode?
I thought it was 2.
It might be 2. Look, seasons 1 and 2 of TNG are rough, and The Measure of a Man is a huge standout. It is one of my favorite episodes of TNG ever. Josh Reese for $5 says, a washed out spillway is one that's down on its luck. Yeah, it's sitting in the gutters, just doing things that are somewhat illegal in order to get its hand on its next fix. That's what a washed out spillway is. Hasn't taken a shower in a few weeks. Hasn't had a haircut in longer than Bent has had a haircut.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
map that they give out at Grand Canyon. If you go there, this is the map they'll give you to get around.
Is it? I don't remember getting this map, but I don't know, maybe.
The river enters the canyon 2,800 feet above sea level and flows south and then over to the left, to the west.
Roughly true?
The canyon rim is over 6,900 feet.
Nice.
Up to 8,500 feet in places. At that point, the river is only 1,800 feet above sea level. So since the top is higher than the bottom, and the river runs through the bottom, and the top's higher than where the river enters the canyon, and rivers don't flow uphill.
Which neither do floods, Kent. Let's remember, water generally doesn't flow uphill. Doesn't matter if it's a flood or not.
Then that river did not make that canyon. It's just common sense.
Ben, did any of that make a lick of sense to you?
Not really.
Okay, I'm taking a drink. Because I don't even know how he's trying to get from here to there. Floods also don't carve canyons uphill. Like, they just don't, right? Now, it's not entirely true to say water doesn't flow uphill. It can flow uphill in small areas for a little while, right? So, for instance, have you ever seen a relatively fast-flowing river and there's a rock in the river? Some of the water will hit the rock and go up a little bit, right? But overall, the trend of the water is downhill. It can only overcome that trend locally for a short period of time. It's kind of like entropy, right? The entropy of the universe. Oh, hey, drink for Mothra. Thanks, Mothra. Right, like the entropy of the universe keeps going up. But in small parts of the universe, entropy can locally decrease as it takes advantage of energy gradients, right? And that's fine. That doesn't break the laws of thermodynamics. But what Kent is suggesting is that all... Geez, thanks, Mothra. What Kent is suggesting... Love you, Mothra, but come on. Is that after the flood, North America still had that east to west rise where it went uphill towards the Rockies. Thanks, Mothra. Take another Mothra drink. Okay. And that yet, the flood water rose up across the entire section of, basically Colorado into Arizona, down into, like, Nevada and California. Floods don't do that. What the... Thanks, Mothra. Again, I'm going to start getting drunk just because of Mothra. So let's switch this back to live chat because for some reason YouTube is just like, what if I took up all of the memory? All right. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $5 says, how to make good Star Trek. Step 1, take 2 or more Shakespearean trained actors. Yes. Step 2, give them a moral dilemma to chew on. Yes. Step 3, stand back. Correct. That is, in fact, how to do that. Which means I need more Shakespearean trained actors in my Star Trek game. If you know any Shakespearean trained actors, we'll replace, I don't know, Chesh with them. Actually, I say that, but like, Chesh is like, part of me does kind of want to just focus on the production. I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, that's why I chose to be the captain, because then I could just delegate and sit back a little bit. Yeah, that makes sense. Robert Atson, who's been a member for 29 months and is at the amulet level, says, the top is higher than the bottom. With some pelagic tunicates, and the AIG's a bag of dicks emoji, Godzilla, a Mothra, more pelagic tunicates, and a drink. And we will, in fact, drink. Thank you. Yes, Lady Knoll says, a tsunami at the coastline is when the ocean or lakeshore will cause water to temporarily go uphill. True. But tsunamis also don't carve canyons. So that also doesn't help much. So yeah. So what is the actual explanation for why the rim of the canyon starts to slope up as the river continues to flow downhill? Because obviously, if you're at the bottom of the canyon, thanks, Mothra. So yeah, if you're at the bottom of the canyon, right, the river's flowing downhill that whole time at various slopes. So how does this happen? Well, it's actually not that complicated, right? So what happens is if there's uplift, so what that means is if the, what am I trying to say? Oh, right. So if the land that the water is cutting through is slowly moving up, which can happen for a whole bunch of different reasons, right? Oh, thanks, Mothra. Take another drink. But the water is cutting down at a rate that is... Another one. My goodness. I just lost my train of thought because there were too many Mothras. Oh, right. Okay, so... If the land is moving up as a result of uplift at a rate that is equal to or lower than the rate of down cutting, then the river will continue to cut down through the land. And what will happen is that at that area where there's an uplift, the rim of whatever formation that river is cutting through will start to rise up higher than where the river enters the canyon. And nothing about that is hard to explain or breaks any laws of physics or anything at all. And the thing is, we know that this area is in fact uplifting. It's uplifting right now. And since that's physically the only way to carve a canyon through an uplift, you can't do it with a flood where the uplift is already there. That has to be what happened. And we know it is what happened, because we can also date various stages of the uplift. Crow, not Confucius for €5.99 says, good night. I wish I could hang around longer with a wave. Hey, you know what? That's okay. It is late out there in Europe. I get it. So yeah, no worries there. Let's double check the fundraiser. It's been a little while since we started having the flood of Mothras. All right, no current change. Remember, if you do give there, it counts at 1.2, so 20% extra for purposes of like Bent getting free pizza, which we're actually pretty close to. I think we're about 9 percentage points from Bent getting free pizza. So, which would in this case be tacos, probably tomorrow. So if you want Bent to get tacos tomorrow, we're close. And also, we're only 4 super chats away from me taking a break. All right, so we have a mechanism that can cause the Grand Canyon to cut through these uplifts. But it only works if we have enough time. It doesn't work with Kent's idea, which is a problem for Kent, but he's never going to address this. Osiris Phantom AIG for 500 Argentinian pesos says, today's stream, 65% thank you, Mothra, 15% Star Trek, 15% Science, 5% Bilbo, and the rest is all Kent. I didn't actually do any Bilbo. No Bilbo today. And then Roshan Localized Standard Compare Color for $4.99 says, my head hurts and I'm sharing that here. I'm sorry. I hope it wasn't my fault. It might have been Kent's fault. But yeah, headaches are no good. And I'm realizing that I'm like way overdue for a cluster headache, and I am not happy about that. Because like any day now, I'm just going to be debilitated for like 5 or 6 hours by like having my eyeball feel like it's going to push through my skull. So, yeah. That's going to suck. Anyway, here's some Kent. That's when I take a break. This is when I have a debilitating headache.
There's a picture of Grand Canyon. I just flew over it a couple weeks ago for about my 9th time, I guess. I just never tire of looking at that thing from the...
Pretty sure Kent didn't take that one, but I don't think he's claiming to. I'm just saying, I don't think Kent was flying over a USAF, United States Air Force, plane over the Grand Canyon. Although, I mean, it's a really cool picture. I'll give him that. Like, he chose a really neat picture. I like the plane is there. It's, got reasonable composition. You got the shadows and the land at a good angle. Like, it's overall, it's a nice picture. I like it.
Air. It's absolutely gorgeous to see. But basically, it's wasted real estate. What can you do with it besides look at it?
I don't know. Study the geology, study the biology. You could do science, Kent. That's a thing that people do. I don't know. Maybe there's that. Also, what's wrong with looking at things that are nice to look at? Like, this is... I think it... Okay, look, I don't want to get too, historical or philosophical or something, right? But I think this kind of ties into, the darkest aspects of the so-called Protestant work ethic, right? Where, if it's not being productive, then it's not adding to your, net wealth. Therefore, it's not showing people that you're approved of God to be wealthy, because for some reason... The Protestant work ethic involves the idea that people who are wealthy are, for that reason, known to be blessed by God. Because otherwise, why would God give you all this stuff? Of course, the answer is, well, did God give you all this stuff? Or did you just, do a lot of stuff that makes money? Which people who don't really care about God can also do. As evidenced by, the current crop of billionaires, very few of whom I would say are actually theists of any sort. Joshua Geese for $5 says, Taco Tuesday! And yeah, that actually would make it Taco Tuesday. That is a good point. Yeah, you get a good point there. Anyway, so you get this sort of idea that leisure is bad, right? That's where you get phrases like, idle hands are the devil's workshop, things like that, right? Where there's this idea that it's not okay to do things for fun. Don't do things for fun. Only work, which, okay. To be fair, I probably shouldn't talk, given the fact that I'm basically saying, hey, I probably won't take a break until people tell me to. So I know that about myself, but still, I don't begrudge when people take time to just enjoy things. Hell, I still enjoy things, even with my crazy work attempts. It's just working through the entire day. And I hate that. And it's also the impetus that where we get things like, like the drug war, where it's like, oh, hey, why we gotta get rid of marijuana? And the answer is because it felt like it was something that made especially racial minorities lazy. That's the actual answer, right? It's something that racial minorities do, and they get lazy when they do it, according to this stupid Protestant work ethic. It is okay to enjoy things. In fact, I would say it is vital to your mental health to do things sometimes just for fun. There is a reason that the vast majority of things on my Amazon wishlist are things that would be fun for me to own. Things like comic books, TTRPG rule books, fun snacks, right? No, don't get me wrong. If there's something I really need, there's a fair chance it'll go on there, right? Like this keyboard was on my wish list. This mouse was on my wish list. This microphone was on my wish list. The webcam I use was on my wish list. So I still use it for that. But sometimes it's okay to have fun. And if you're out there and you're running yourself ragged, it's okay to sometimes do something fun. And yes, I know that it's hypocritical of me to say that. No, that doesn't change how I feel about working. Let's see. Osiris Phantom AIG for 200 Argentinian pesos says, Kent looking at a mountain chain. It's free real estate. Yeah. Lieutenant Math Navigator for $5 says, how much do you think the existence of the Grand Canyon adds to the local economies? Oh, it's basically the reason for a lot of the local economies. In fact, there is an entire village on the grounds of the national park where a large portion of the staff that work at the national park live. And the only reason that village exists, including things like grocery stores, gas stations, there's a church, like all the things a village would normally need. The only reason it exists at this point is because of the tourism. That's how money comes into that community. And then, of course, there are other things that have sprung up around that community to support it. But the only way that outside wealth flows in is through the tourism. And so, yeah, it's also the case that a lot of the various places around are also only there because of tourism, right? Like the town that we stayed in, I think twice, Bent, in different hotels and whatnot with different groups. And also that was the closest town to where we were staying at that Airbnb when the science friends all went out to the Grand Canyon. That town, whose name I don't remember off the top of my head, but it is mostly a bunch of tour companies and restaurants and hotels, all of which are catering to tourists, right? So, the Grand Canyon is a huge moneymaker for everyone in that area, especially at the South Rim, which is the more popular rim.
That's about it, I was in Idaho, and I stopped at a bridge and took a picture of a massive canyon.
I have been there. It's pretty cool. It's not as cool as the Grand Canyon, but I remember I didn't know about it, and then I drove over it, and I was like, holy crap, what is happening right now? And yeah, that was a weird day. I had been working elsewhere in Idaho, and then my scheduler called me, and he was like, hey, I need you to cancel your flight home. I was like, okay, then what am I doing? What do I do? He's like, yeah, we need you to drive Billy's van. I'm like, where is it? He's like, oh, it's here in Pocatello. Okay, where am I driving it to? Phoenix. So I had to drive a van from Pocatello to Phoenix that was full of giant hunks of metal, so it had no acceleration. And that was weird. And then of course Billy's calling me like, hey man, is my van here? I'm like, no, Billy, I'm in Vegas. He's like, well, you think you can get it here tonight? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna drive through the night just to get you your van. Goop23 for $5 says, when I was at the Grand Canyon, there was a restaurant called We Cook Pizza and Pasta. I mean, hey, a very descriptive name for a restaurant. I approve. I like it. And also, that gets us the 30 out of 30. So I will not record audio tonight, and I will, in fact, take the 4th off with the possible exception of hanging out in chat and maybe jumping into voice chat with Chesh. Ambi Quantum Yiddish Z, who's been a member for 15 months and is at the tetrapod level. Really, 15 months? My goodness. Man, time flies. Says, I'm from Idaho. I don't much recommend it. Look, every state has cool stuff that you can go see. However, Idaho is very low on the list of places I want to live or even spend huge amounts of time in. So I don't want to say oh, there's nothing to do in Idaho. That's not true. But yeah, not my Not my favorite go-to location. Peggy Jace's anti-gravity rapture device in reference to Goop 3's super chat says, plot twist, it was a Chinese restaurant. That would be pretty funny. It also makes me want dim sum. Man, I haven't had dim sum in so long.
This little creek at the bottom flows into the Snake River, where Evel Knievel tried to jump across, with his motorcycle.
I didn't know that. I don't really follow Daredevils, but okay. Except Daredevil, the man without fear,
The Snake River, there's the Snake River there. I don't know if that's the place, but near there he tried to jump across with his motorcycle. Stupid.
There I might actually agree.
See, the rivers, though, are characteristic. You can tell things about the history of the river a little bit by the shape of the river.
Yeah, Kent. You can. Remember that time that you told us that meanders are a result of slow-flowing rivers? I'm taking another drink. How does he just have so little self-awareness? Like, do you think he listens to himself?
No. But he does love to hear himself talk.
Yeah, but it must be just like background
what he
noise.
does.
Like for him, himself talking is like when I'm like going to bed and I turn on like 10 hours of rain sounds. So it's like some white noise so that I don't just hear the tinnitus or tinnitus, I suppose. I don't know. I don't like tinnitus. I know it's probably the more correct, but it just sounds weird to my
I'm pretty
ears.
sure it's correct, but I don't like it either.
Yeah.
This textbook says, flowing through the Grand Canyon, the Colorado River provides a puzzle as to its stage of development. The river shows the wide looping meanders, characteristic of an old-age river. However, the valley walls are steep and V-shaped, characteristic of a youthful river. How might this apparent conflict of characteristics be explained?
Hey, Bent, what do you think the next section of that text is that he's not going to read for us?
Answering the question that was just asked.
Yeah, probably. And you know what the answer is?
What?
After the river started to steeply incise that channel, it couldn't meander anymore. And so those meanders got locked in, and then it was able to just downcut the whole time. And because it couldn't meander significantly, it didn't matter that normally only fast-moving rivers cause steep channels. Yep. Holy crap, YouTube, again? All right, if anyone has any ideas as to whether or not a different browser would be better for this, I don't know. Like, I know that MC Toon is having the exact same problem, and he uses a different browser than I do, so maybe it's not a browser thing. But, like, yeah, that's really, really, really annoying. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, and I missed updating here. Gotta update, otherwise we won't know when Bent gets free pizza. Which is really close now. And actually, if there's any donations to the fundraiser, that might actually have changed it. Oh, Bent, this might be good news for Bent.
Okay.
Bent gets free tacos. It says pizza, but it means tacos.
That is good news.
That is good. Yeah, I agree. So congrats, Bent. You're going to get some free tacos probably tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, chat.
Yeah. So, all right, let's keep going.
See, steep sides indicate it's fast-moving.
Usually. But also not too fast, because remember, if it's too fast, then it will erode those sides too much. And also, it means that the rock has to already be lithified, because if it's not, then we don't get steep sides, because the sides can't support such steep angles if they're unlithified, right? It's sort of like, let's see, what would be a good example? Like concrete, right? Let's say you have a chunk of concrete. You can stack that up so that one side is pretty vertical, right? That's not a big deal. It'll hold up as a nearly vertical shear face if you just have a hunk of concrete. In fact, we see sheer bits of concrete all the time. Many buildings just have walls made of concrete. They're just plumb. Okay, cool. That's neat. But what if you had still wet concrete, which basically hasn't turned into what's effectively a rock? And you say, okay, I've got a hunk of still wet concrete, and I'm going to put it up like a wall. What's going to happen? It's going to slump down into a shallow mound, right? Because wet concrete can't hold up a vertical face. So how do we get vertical concrete? Well, we have to set some kind of barrier up so that it can harden while it's still vertical, and then we can take the barrier away. Well, what's the barrier in the case of a canyon? Well, it's just the rest of the rock, right? The rock is actually at basically no angle. It's just laying flat. And you cut through it. Similarly, if you had a hunk of concrete that formed as just a flat plane of concrete, right? And you dug through it, you could maintain steep channels. But if, on the other hand, you had a bunch of wet concrete and you tried to dig a furrow through it, it would fill back in, and you would get smooth-sided channels. It's the same thing with sediment and rock, right? The rock has to lithify to get this kind of steep-sided canyon. So it can't be caused by a flood, because that's too fast, and it can't be caused through unconsolidated sediment, because it can't hold that shape. So once again, Kent is just getting everything wrong. And also, again, he's quoting from a textbook, which means one of two things. Either he has the textbook and he knows what follows after that, and he knows that it's an explanation for this, or he doesn't have the textbook, or just hasn't checked it, and is getting this quotation from someone else without checking it. Which means he's lying, because when you cite a work, it means that you have at least read enough of the work to know that it says the thing you're trying to use it to support. That's why creationists love to cite the first sentence of an abstract, which is always, almost always dishonest, right? It's just the same thing here. Actually, Anka, who's been a member for 3 months and is at the Tetrapod level, says AIG is a bag of bigoted phalli with the little 3 smiley face. I don't know what that's called. But then also the trans pride flag. And yes, they are. We will take a drink. And also, yes, trans rights. And if you disagree with me, you don't have to stay and watch. It's fine. If you are against trans rights, you can just leave and do something else. Because quite frankly, if you feel like people should be discriminated against in things like housing or marriage or medical care or employment for being trans, I feel like I don't need you in my audience or want you in my audience or to know that you even exist for the most part. I already have to know that people like you exist in general. I don't need to know about it in particular. Iris Phantom AIG, I believe. Yes, Osiris Phantom AIG, got it. Sorry, I didn't have the thing where it's not truncated up. Says for 200 Argentinian pesos, you need to harden it so it gets vertical. Dapper 2025. Yeah, okay. I've said too many things that can be easily clipped. But also, we're only 10% of the way away from getting a fancy avatar. So that's cool. Yeah. All right, here we go.
Looping back and forth indicates it is slow moving.
Mm-hmm.
And they wonder, how did that river make that canyon like that? Well, the river didn't make that canyon. Here's an aerial shot of Mississippi River looping back and forth. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, the loops actually get pinched off and it flows straight across.
Yeah, but Kent, again, that's slow-moving water. What is your explanation for why there are the loops? Because a flood doesn't cut it. Floods create straight channels. At some point, do you think Kent is ever going to address the fact that every time we see a flood, we get very straight channels out of it?
No, he's not going to say that.
No,
He probably doesn't even know that.
Hey, Josh McGee just sent 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Thank you so much. Let's update that and then take 5 drinks. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Thank you very much.
Leaving the loop behind. So now you got a problem. If
Oh, by the way, those are called oxbow lakes when that happens. In case you're wondering.
on the right side it's Illinois and on the left side it's Missouri.
Neat.
Now a loop gets cut off. Who gets the loop?
I don't care.
There's new farmland created. Is it in Missouri on the Illinois side of the river now? Take a close look at a map sometime. All along the Mississippi River, you'll see many areas that are colored to go to the state on the other side, because it used to be there. I think.
What does this have to do with anything? I guess, to be fair, I go on tangents about things like Star Trek all the time, so maybe I shouldn't talk. But I just don't care. That's up to the farmers in Mississippi and Missouri or whatever. Like, I'm not one of those. I'm not a farmer and I don't live there, so I just don't care. Roshino localized standard compare Keller for $4.99 says people want Dapper to take a break more than people want Kip to unleash the F bombs. That's true, actually. Yeah, we did get there faster. I do appreciate that you favor my well-being over Kip's well-being, I suppose. Although, to be fair, Kip having to control his language it's not that big of a deal. Also, Kip tried to set up a movie night this weekend and then said, right after both Vishanti and I were like, yeah, okay, let's watch a movie. He was like, no, wait, I have too much work. Never mind. I was like, come on, man. How are you going to do that to me? Like, I'm getting all psyched up to go watch a cool movie or something, and then you're just like, nope. What the heck? I want everyone, next time he's on the channel, which is presumably going to be Saturday, yell at him about that. Also, happy Canada Day, Kip. And if you weren't here when I explained Canada Day is the anniversary of the time that Edwin Canada invented Canada back in 1973 on July 1st. So then he named the country after himself because he invented it. And that is how Canada Day happened. Landon, don't fact check me. Kip says, liar, Vish set it up. Okay, well, that is not my recollection. So, I didn't know Kip was even in the audience. Hi, Kip. Still, yell at Kip.
They finally now, most states have kind of made an agreement. Okay, now regardless of what the Mississippi does, this county, this property here belongs to our state. You know, they pretty much have settled most of that.
ONB Alpine Octopi and Mountain Sharks at Club Himalaya says, Kip Moji when? I would love to do a Kip Moji, but right now I don't really want to replace any of the emojis I have, and we would need to get a new emoji, which I don't trust what YouTube tells me about that, but it's probably going to be at least a couple hundred more memberships. So, like, hey, if you want to donate a couple hundred memberships, feel free. But I feel like most people can't afford that, because that's like, what is that, like $1,000 to donate like 200 memberships or something? Which, like, I won't complain if you do, but if you do that, what do you do for work, and how can I get into that job?
But it becomes a real problem if you happen to be living on one of these meanders. When it cuts it off, the lake that's left behind is called an oxbow lake.
Hey, I said that too. All right, good job, Kent. You got that one right. I didn't think he was going to say it. That's pretty cool. Dapper needs a drunk dinosaur avatar stat. That's just me. If you guys make me drink enough times.
Who cares? Okay, that's the kind of stuff you study in earth science. Steep sides, though, indicate the river's probably very young or on high sloping ground, rapid sloping ground, so you get a...
Or that the rock it cut through was particularly hard. There's also that.
Steep sides to the river. So those would be a good quiz questions.
I don't know why the video has frozen, but the player isn't crashing, so I'm assuming it's original to the video. My apologies, everyone.
Characteristics of a low gradient, meaning not very steep ground, stream, are the characteristic is that it's looping back and forth. Mm-hmm. Characteristic of high gradient stream is steep sides on the river.
Once again, Kent, stop repeating yourself and get to the fucking point. We're late in the stream, so I can drop the one.
Canyon has both loops and steep sides. And they can't figure out how it formed because...
No, Kent, that's the next sentence in the textbook. You know how I know? Because whenever a textbook for babies says, challenge your critical thinking, what do you think about this? They're inviting the kids to think about it, and then they're going to give them the right answer afterwards. That's the entire point of that setup. The fact that you're saying, well, they can't figure it out, means that not only do you think that textbooks for babies are a good place to actually get your scientific knowledge as a grown-ass adult, but you don't even realize what's in a textbook in the first place, because while apparently you think that's a good place to get your scientific understanding, you don't bother to actually do it. You know what? I'm going to take a drink. I'm going to start wrapping things up before I have some kind of aneurysm or something. I don't freaking know. I'm going to burst some blood vessels in my eye or something. I don't know why. I am just out of patience for Kent today. It has been. Whew, it's been a lot. Okay, so we are 4% away from a fancy avatar, so I don't think we're gonna get it, but we will check the fundraiser one last time just in case. And let's see, that is what it was before, so we do not need to move the the funding goal for that. So I want to say thank you very much. We got what is it, $160 added to the fundraiser just during the stream. So that is a huge help. If you like, another thing is though, don't feel like you need to give 50 or 20 or $100 or whatever, right? $1 helps. $5 helps, right? Because it all adds up. And so right now we're at 31% of the way to the goal. We've had 26 contributors and we still have 31 days left. So I want to say thank you very much to everyone who's contributed. Bent, do you have anything you want to announce for anything that's coming up in the next week for you? And if not, we will move on to what I've got to announce.
No, but I did want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Joshua Geese, who got me like 5 things off of my Amazon wish list.
Nice.
Very much appreciated.
So even without the tacos, you're not going to starve?
Correct.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's see. So tomorrow, what's coming up this week? Tomorrow, as I said, at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, we are doing the fundraiser stream for Vishanti. Again, the way that's going to work is whatever we get in from super chats or memberships or anything like that on that day, or during that stream, I guess, whatever, is going to go, half of the net is going to go to Vishanti. Now, what my plan is actually is to just add that up, figure out what the net is, divide that by 2, and then just put that in the fundraiser. And if later on I get the stats from YouTube and it's higher than the amount that I calculated, I will give the additional amount, the difference, as soon as I find that out. So basically a couple days later, probably. And if people are concerned as to whether or not I did that, you can ask and I can send you screenshots of the amount that made versus the amount that I added and stuff like that. I mean, last time I did something like this, no one really asked me, and it's pretty obvious that it's going to be at least close if you just look at the fundraiser. So I don't think it'll be a big deal, but if you do in fact suspect that something off is happening, you can ask and I can provide receipts to some degree at least. Obviously, I'm not going to include anything that would, reveal any kind of doxing type information, but Osiris Phantom AIG for 200 Argentinian pesos says, it's so weird to see the contrast. Young Kent could actually sound confident and use proper vocabulary, so he could actually sound smart. Recent Kent accused Aaron Ra of using confusing words, and after he said butterfly. Yeah, Kent has been losing it for a while now, and he's not going to get any better anytime soon. All right, so then on Thursday, we have a video coming out. It is, let me double check. It is... Oh, here we go. He even lied about Jurassic Park. Don't Believe This Lie Part 3. That is with Joel Lineweber, who is the AIG paleo artist guy, who, by the way, despite actually being a capable 3D and 2D artist, actually he's a really good 2D artist if I'm being honest, he's taken to just using AI and then touching it up in post, which, like, I hate it. I hate it so much. In fact, if you want me to never watch your channel, the quickest way is for you to use an AI thumbnail, because with very few exceptions, if I see an AI thumbnail, I'm going to click on Do Not Recommend Channel. And even if you're one of the few exceptions where I'm not going to do that, if you have an AI thumbnail, the chances of me watching that particular video of yours, basically 0. They look bad, they're bad for the environment, they only function after scraping probably hundreds of thousands of copyrighted images that no one gave permission for any of those companies to use for any purpose at all. Never mind to just store them indefinitely and generate images based off of them. AI is on whole a net drag on everyone. Don't do it. Anyway, I have no idea why I got off on that tangent. I just hate AI. So, That is what's coming up on Thursday. Then on Friday, over on Top Hats Off, we are doing the art stream. John Hopkins did message me on Discord during the break, and I have sent him some additional information about what he should look at to see what his character should look like, or well, the character based on him, I suppose. And so I do think he's going to get that information to Chesh relatively soon. Please get it to her before Friday if you at all can. If you don't know how to get information to her, you can get it to me and ask me to forward it to her. I can do that. But yeah, the idea is that at our normal time, which is 5 p.m. Eastern, no, sorry, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing an art stream over on Top Hats Off, where Chesh is going to be drawing our Han Jopkins, and well, supporting character, not really an NPC. And then on Saturday, the plan is to go back and do more Billy Carson stuff with Vishanti and Kip Davis. So I will be constructing a thumbnail for that probably tomorrow. Also, I will be doing the new end credits for July probably tomorrow. That is because I like to give a little bit of leeway for people who might be like late or something with their payments on PayPal, or not PayPal, Patreon, to actually be able to get all that in. Like just now, as I clicked off of the payout section on PayPal, an additional $300 has come in, which if I had done the names before that, I would have missed some of those names because some of those people wouldn't be paid up yet. So in an effort to avoid that, I have not done the new credit scene yet, which means that today we're going to be doing the June credits. So sorry about that. But hey, then on Tuesday, we are going to be doing Tisdale Tuesdays with Chesh. So Chesh will be back on the channel Tuesday. And then I believe... Oh, drink from Mothra. Mothra's back. I believe after that, she is going to take a vacation, which means that she will be incommunicado for about a week or so. Which means we won't be doing Star Trek Adventures that Friday. So we're basically on a 2-week hiatus from Star Trek Adventures. I don't know, but I'm going to try to fill that spot on Top Hats Off with something, because I would like to have that be a regular stream, as on Fridays, Top Hats Off, around 5 p.m. my time, we do a stream. But that is basically it. I'm just going to do one last check on the fundraiser to see if we have any additional, and we do not. So thank you very much, everybody. After this, I'm going to be going over to my Discord, to the general chat, where we're going to be watching episodes 9, 10, 11, and 12 of Power Rangers Beast Morphers Season 2. It is the next to last team of Rangers. There's only one more team after this. And yeah, please do remember that the link to Vishanti's fundraiser will be up for, it's in the description, so it's going to be up indefinitely. So if at some point you it's payday or something later on in the month or something, feel free to hit that up if that's something you feel moved to do. Because again, Vishanti has been a huge help to this channel. She, not only does she appear on the channel frequently, she is one of the people who I reach out to when I'm researching certain topics. She has sources that I do not have easy access to that she has access to. She has a wealth of information about certain topics that I consult her on. And so she does more for the channel than you would know just by watching the channel. So she's been a huge help. And also, Vishanti is great. So, support cool people. Anyway, I will see all of you later. And if you are interested, I will see you over in Discord for Power Rangers, which is, I'm thinking, going to be pretty fun. I like Beast Morphers. So, All right. Bye, everybody. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Kent Hovind, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Eleron Teller, Phil Rivara, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostek Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Sphincter of Doom, Wallace, Max Cherry, North Texas Fossils, John Ackerman, and Tapioca Weasel. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.